Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock. It's time for another video. And today I'm doing another video in the Deep Dive series. This is where I take a look at a company, I take a look at a particular creator, and I kind of do a deep dive into what happened to their company and the lessons that we can learn by looking back in history. And today I'm going to be looking at a subject or a particular person, a particular company that is near and dear to my heart. Somebody who has impacted my career an awful lot, and somebody I know who has impacted the careers of magicians literally all over the world. We're talking about Mark Leveridge, and today we're going to be talking about Mark Leveridge, the rise, the reinvention, and the long game. So if you've been in magic long enough, you'll start to notice that there's really two types of creators. The first kind chase viral hits. They want the one trick everyone's talking about this month. They don't care about longevity. They don't care about whether that trick is actually performed by people in the real world. They're not really bothered about that. They just want everybody to go out and buy it. And in all likelihood, a lot of those tricks are just going to end up in people's bottom drawers. It's the trick of the month. It's the thing that everyone buzzes about, right? Now, the second kind of creator quietly builds a body of work that lasts. Mark Leveridge is firmly in that second category. He's not the loudest, he's not the flashiest, but he's built a system of learning, publishing, and teaching that has influenced working magicians for more than 4 decades. He has achieved more in his life and his career than most magicians could even dream of, both as a performer, as a creator. Heck, he's done something that almost every single magician wished they'd done, which is bringing out an L&L DVD set. He's done books, he's put on conventions, he's put on, he's had a hugely successful magic dealership, he's brought out tons of DVDs, downloads, a membership club, a video newsletter, and a podcast that's still going strong today. This is the story of Mark Leveridge, the rise, the reinvention, and the lesson that he leaves for all of us in this industry. Okay, let's start with chapter 1, the beginnings, the origin story. I went to think back to 1981. That was a long time ago. My wife was born in 1981. A long time ago, right? I was 5 years old in 1981. Well, in 1981, Mark had just won the IBM Close-Up competition that October, and that victory gave him the confidence and the bookings to go full-time. He was born in Kent in 1956, and by 25 years old, he was making his living as a magician. Now, from the very beginning, his brand was clear. He wasn't interested in knuckle-busting for its own sake. He wasn't chasing TV exposure. He wanted commercial material, routines that actually earned a place in pocket space at gigs. The focus on practicality is everything he's done since. Now, here's the thing. A lot of magic creators, they create magic. They've probably never done a gig in their life. Or maybe they've done the odd gig or two here. Or, there are creators that have been performing professionally, but maybe just in one niche. Like, there'll be close-up magicians and that's it. But Mark has literally run the gauntlet and then some. He's performed at the highest level doing close-up magic. He's performed at the highest level standing on stage, doing family shows, doing kid shows. He literally invented, as far as I'm concerned, the formula. So I run a children's entertainment company, and the formula that we use, which is a magic show and party games, that formula was based off watching a Mark Leveridge DVD. I wanted to have packages that involved magic shows and party games because that's what I saw Mark did. He influenced so many people. And the reason it's important I tell you this is because he ran a magic dealership. Yes, a successful magic dealership, which he continues to run today. But the backbone of that magic dealership, the backbone of him as a creator, the backbone of him creating magic was the fact that he was also a professional performer. And that was really important. I remember, and I've told this story on Magic TV before, I remember going to Blackpool and Mark's stand was always in the same place. You went down the main stairs and you walked forward, and right there in the corner was Mark Leveridge, and I would sit there for hours just watching him dem. I'd buy everything. Everything he had I would buy. That was a given. But I would watch him. And watching him demonstrate his magic over and over again was a masterclass for me at a time when I was really trying to learn how to do magic. So it's a very different origin story to most in that, yes, he won a competition. He then decided to go pro. He's always had no problem from a business point of view. He's had no problem getting gigs, but he's always had that, very early on, he then transitioned from performing to actually going and setting up a magic dealership, which became hugely successful. And then it blew up in 1989. Let's call Chapter 2 the Close-Up Magic Symposiums. Because in April 1989, Mark launched something brand new, the British Close-Up Magic Symposium. Now, at the time, Close-Up Magic didn't get the spotlight of stage shows or illusion shows. A lot of people that were getting into magic, they weren't that kind of bothered about close-up magic. What they were really focused about was stage magic. And Mark had made a living doing close-up magic. A lot of the tricks that he bought out through his dealership, Mark Leveridge Magic, was close-up magic. So he made a business decision to set up the Close-Up Magic Symposium, and he flipped that. He made close-up the headliner. Over the next 16 years, he produced 9 symposiums, with the final one in 2005 at Bath University. The first decade, 1989 through to 1999, gave us 6 full conventions. Each one was captured with a companion book and eventually compiled into ebooks so the material wouldn't vanish the day it was over. In fact, you can still pick up those ebooks on his site right now. Those symposium volumes are a time capsule of where Close-Up was in the 80s, all the way through to the early 2000s. Gaffes, workers, essays, timing notes, all written down, all presented. Mark didn't just run and organise the events. He built a classroom and then published the classroom for the rest of us. Now, this blew magic up, close-up magic up in the UK. It's a little bit like the session now. In fact, from speaking to Mark, one of the reasons that the symposium wound down and he stopped it was because the session had come up and it was kind of a conflicting thing. They both kind of had a similar sort of audience. And so Mark stepped back when it came to the British Close-Up Symposiums. But it was this session of its day, and it attracted, some of the biggest names in magic. And this is one of the things that Mark Leveridge is really good at. There's a couple of things he's really good at. One is reinvention, which we'll get to in a little bit, but and stepping away when the time is right. But the other thing is he's very, very good at business. And I can tell he's a very good business person. He's very good at spotting opportunities. He's very good at looking at the landscape, at the marketplace and going, well, okay, what can I do to stand out? And the setting up of the symposiums is a perfect example. It came at a time where there were no conventions like that. There were no conventions that were solely focused on close-up magic. So it attracted a bunch of people that maybe hadn't been to conventions before, but it also took his name, Mark Leveridge Magic, and really elevated it to the next level because these were run by Mark Leveridge Magic. His dealership, his magic shop became more popular because of people finding out about him through the symposiums. And then it continued. So the one thing that you need to understand is Mark Leveridge is a very, very good business person. Now, Chapter 3, we'll talk about lecture notes to cameras because you see, the thing is, back in the 80s, there were no video tutorials, there were no DVDs, there were no streaming platforms, there were no membership sites. The tricks that you bought, you got a piece of paper with it at a best, or maybe a little booklet. And we talked about how Mark's very good at innovating and he's very good about taking things to the next level and spotting ideas within niches. Well, when video became affordable, Mark was one of the first creators who actually took it seriously. He didn't just sit in a studio and teach moves, he documented real gigs. One of my favorite projects of all time is Mark Leveridge's The Art of Hopping Tables. Now, this came out at around about the time that I was hopping tables, and the material in that was incredible, and it had such an influence on my career. It's a two-part project where you literally follow Mark to a paid strolling gig. You see the prep that he does behind the scenes, the logistics, the resets, the live audience's reactions, and they were live, honest reactions, so you could see that it's not always screaming and shouting and high-fiving. Sometimes they're muted, and that's okay. And then you had detailed explanations for all of the tricks. It showed that it's not glamorous, it's reality, and that's exactly what made this project valuable. If you can get The Art of Hopping Tables, literally go out and find a copy, because for me, every single effect in that project I then started doing, and I followed Mark's advice, just like I did with Kids Magic when he brought out How to Run a Kids Party. I bought all of his material. I remember having the thing with the wand with the silks that dropped off, and I literally just copied his presentation word for word. I was terrible at Kids Magic when I first started. I didn't know what I was doing, and one of the ways that I got good was by literally basically copying Mark Leveridge, both in terms of the effects, how to run the party, how to run the game session, everything. And then we've got to talk about the master routines. 12 complete pieces he developed between 1984 and 2003. All compiled eventually into a single project in 2004. He brought the master routines out one by one, and it was an event when a master routine came out because you knew it was something he'd spent a long time working on. And a lot of the master routines I still do to this day. The ring competition is my favorite presentational way of doing a ring and string for a stand-up audience. His ring on string routine is still to this day the best ring on string routine you will ever see. And I'm including Nick Einhorn and Greg Wilson in that statement. Mark Leveridge is the best. His ring routine is the best. He was bringing out key fobs with ring flights without actual having a reel in them way before anyone else. He was developing so much material that became working material for working pros, but the master routines were next level. If you saw my Penguin Holiday special last year and you saw me doing my security pen routine, that was based on a routine of Mark Leveridge's called Security Pen. The thing about Mark Leveridge's material, and the master routines especially, is they're not pipe dreams. They're routines that have been hammered into shape by years of use. And that's one of the things that, for me, defined Mark Leveridge as a creator. It wasn't just buying something and figuring it out and hoping it would work. You knew that if you were buying something off Mark Leveridge, it would be golden. I mentioned it before, but his kids' party video took you inside. It was a little bit like The Art of Hopping Tables. It was like The Art of Hopping Tables, but for kids shows and family shows. It took you inside a real party environment with live footage. It was messy, it was noisy, it was honest. And again, that's the point. He was showing magicians the truth of his work, not just fantasy. The point is, and what we can learn from chapter 3, is Mark once again showed that he was looking to innovate. He wasn't just wanting to stand still, he was innovating. He was setting up conventions. He was embracing video. I remember sort of later on, after the symposiums ended, he started doing dealer evenings where he would come along and do a lecture and a dealer sort of dem, where you would go in, and he wasn't doing it inside clubs, he was hiring venues, and you could buy a ticket, but if you bought a ticket, you would get that money back to spend on his dealer booth, and he would do a lecture, and he'd demo all of the items. And I remember just going to a lot of those and absolutely loving it, getting a chance to be in a room with Mark Leveridge for a couple of hours, just watching him perform and learning from him. Absolutely brilliant. The guy just innovates. Let's call chapter 4 the envelope legacy, because if you're a working magician, what Mark Leveridge is most associated with is envelopes. I think a lot of people would say that. His utility switch envelope, often just called a Leveridge envelope, became a staple. It's an innocent-looking envelope that allows for switches, loads, productions, and vanishes. He expanded on it in envelope magic and routines like preview. It's one of those tools that works that just works. And it just works so well. It goes straight into professional repertoires. Simple, practical, deceptive. The kind of idea that defines Mark's whole approach to magic. Really is. But then he did a whole bunch of other stuff with envelopes as well. In fact, I talked about him doing the L&L DVD sets. One of those DVD sets was literally just on envelope magic. In fact, he had 2 books on envelope magic called Forever Flapping, or I'm Still Flapping, I believe it is. Credit Scare, which used an envelope, and he published as an actual individual trick as well as being in the book, I believe, was my go-to restaurant trick. It was the one I always did. If I had an opportunity to borrow a credit card, I would. Like the things that Mark did with envelopes was remarkable. Now I'm thinking of it. In fact, his creativity in general is just next level. And I still say to this day, if you ask me what the best invisible deck routine ever is, it's Mark Leveridge's. Imagine this for a second. He brings out an invisible deck. It's on an invisible table. He does all of the gags. He gets them to put it inside an invisible envelope. They take any card. There's no force. They put it inside in an invisible envelope, and they hand the invisible envelope to you. And when they do, it becomes a real envelope. And then when you open it up, their card's inside there. And it is actually their card. They had a free choice. There's no deck or anything on display. That is an actual working trick. It was a standalone trick in its own right, but I believe he taught it on his L&L DVD set. Anybody could go and download that right now. There's so much material, both on his website, available through his ebooks, available through his Master Routine series, available through the L&L DVDs that are now downloadable. There's so much material. You could literally get all of Leveridge's stuff and have a working act and never, ever, ever have to go and buy anything else. That's how influential Mark Leveridge was. Okay, chapter 5, building a platform, the E-Club. Now this is where Mark shows real business sense. While a lot of dealers in the 2000s were stuck chasing DVD sales, Mark pivoted to a membership. Now you've got to remember, this is before the Netrix, this is before Discord channels existed, this is before any of that happened. He decided to pivot to a membership platform. He was doing this before anyone else. It's almost like he could look into the future. And this is what I mean. His ability to kind of pivot, his ability to read the market and know exactly what the market needs at any given time is completely, nobody talks about it, but it's so true. He just has this ability. Oh, right, okay, so video looks like it's going to be a big thing. Well, everyone else was still writing out pieces of paper. Let's embrace that. Oh, you know what? Close-Up Magic's going to be big in this country. Let's start doing conventions just about Close-Up Magic. Oh, you know what? I think that DVDs might eventually go away. Let's start a membership site. He created the E-Club Lite, a free tier that gave magicians access to monthly e-video newsletters. Now, that newsletter wasn't just a promo email, it was a magazine-style video with fresh instructions, tips, and advice. And then he built E-Club Pro, which was a paid membership that unlocked a huge archive of routines and advice across close-up, stand-up, kid shows, and mentalism. It included the monthly message videos, personal mentoring in bite-sized form. And then he spun it off into the E-Club Pro Select, and these were created single releases pulled from the archive and sold a la carte to non-members. Now what's clever here is the ladder, the infrastructure behind everything. Free to paid, casual to deep dive. Everybody and everyone had an entry point, and because he kept adding content every single month, people stayed. That's why the E-Club is still running in 2025. Now you see this in modern marketing techniques. You see this from a digital marketing point of view. It's called a tripwire, it's tripwire marketing, or there's a million different ways to describe it. It's the idea of getting somebody in at a level, on a free level, then upselling them something that doesn't cost very much to get them into a completely different mindset to eventually upsell them on a core product. This is stuff that digital marketers do all of the time. You see thousands of courses on digital marketing doing this. Mark Leveridge is the only person that I've seen Mark Leveridge and Ken Dine are the only people that I've seen practically do this system within the magic marketplace and have it work and work really well. And if you haven't seen the E-Club Pro or any of the stuff that Mark's doing online, please go and check it out on his website because it's exceptional. So we already know that Mark is an incredible business person. I think I've shown that right now. Chapter 6 we'll call the monthly voice, because on top of everything, he's taken a content-driven marketing approach to sales as well. From his marketing point of view, content marketing is key. In 2019, he added the Mark Leveridge podcast, one episode a month, every month. And it's been going every month ever since. That's over 100 episodes by now. And it's exactly what you would expect from Mark. Pragmatic talk about gigs, creativity, audience management, the realities of being a working pro. No hype, no drama, no, oh my God, what's happened this week? None of that. Just constant, consistent value. That monthly voice reinforces his whole brand. Reliable, useful, and steady. And that's the thing that you need to understand. Mark Leveridge's brand has survived through 4 decades. Yes, people that are coming to magic now might not know him as well as we did like 30 or 40 years ago, but when you find him, you realize just how much incredible material this man has created. And the content-driven approach that he's taking with putting information out there, his use of a newsletter is incredible. It's just the right amount. It's not spamming people. You see a lot of dealers these days that will spam the ever-loving hell out of you. He's not doing that. His newsletter is a masterclass in how to use a newsletter. His podcast is a masterclass in how to get traffic to come through to a mailing list and eventually to upsell them. It's great. And don't forget, as a magic shop, Mark Leveridge Magic pivoted. I mean, I don't think I've even mentioned that, but Mark pivoted around when I talk about he pivoted to eClub Lite. He stopped doing physical sales. That's another way that he actually pivoted. He saw that everything was going digital, and rather than continue to produce physical products, everything went into an electronic format at a time when nobody else was doing that. He literally shut up shop from a physical shop point of view and started doing everything electronically. It's really inspiring, really. It's a masterclass in how to actually generate work and stay one step ahead of the competition. And don't forget, while he was doing this, at the same time, he was going out and gigging and being a professional magician. Chapter 7, Magic Scene Magazine. Mark wasn't just creating products for himself. In March 2005, he co-founded Magic Scene Magazine, the UK's independent magic magazine. He took the role of editor and stayed in that chair for nearly 2 decades. And let's be honest, it became probably the biggest and most well-known magic magazine in Europe. Issue after issue, he shaped the tone. Interviews, features, reviews, teaching, all with a slightly lighter, more chatty style than a traditional magic magazine. He brought people in as columnists that they hadn't really seen before. I remember writing for Magic Magazine probably about 15, 16 years ago now, doing a series of articles called A World of Gaffed Coins. He gave me that gig at a time where nobody knew who I was. It was before there was a product review. And, that's the sort of thing he did. He brought people in that maybe nobody else had heard of, but it was just, incredible him doing that. He didn't have to. That was great. I'm just thinking back now. In November 2022, he wrote a farewell column in Magic Scene called Goodbye and Thanks, and stepped down as editor. He handed the magazine onto a team and moved on to other projects. That's Mark in a nutshell. Build something, run it well, and then step away clearly when the time is right. Now, I don't want to get into Magic Scene because, to be honest, this is not the video about Magic Scene, but in the last year, they've had some problems in terms of bringing issues out in a timely manner. Now, this is another example of Mark pivoting and moving on and cutting ties at just the right point. He did it with the conventions. He built up the symposiums, made it incredibly successful, and when the time is right and he saw the writing on the wall, he pivoted into something else. He set up a dealership. He produced physical products. He was one of the most popular producers of magic in the UK, as far as I'm concerned. And then at some point, he was like, you know what? I see the writing on the wall. I'm going to move away. I'm going to move away and I'm going to stop doing physical products and I'm going to start doing electronically. He set up Magic Scene, another thing that built the Mark Leveridge brand. He set up Magic Scene, it became huge, it became huge, it became huge, and at one point he saw the writing on the wall and he stepped away. He seems to have this ability to do that, and that's something that it's really important that we all learn how to do. We need to watch our market pace. As magicians, as performing magicians, we should be looking at our industry and going, right, okay, what could affect this? What could affect this? What could affect that? It's something that Mark has done so well. Okay, chapter 8, probably my favorite chapter. No scandals, just shifts. That's what I'm calling this one. No scandals, just shifts. Because here's the thing. I'm doing a lot of these rise and fall videos at the moment. Well, the rise of this company and the fall of this company, why they didn't work, or whatever the case may be. And these episodes are all about controversies, bankruptcies, scandals, what somebody did so that their business failed. But that's not the Mark Leveridge story. If you want to point out a low point, if there's even a low point, it was the same cliff everyone in the industry faced. The DVD era collapsing under piracy and the rise of streaming. For some dealers, that was the end. They were done. But for Mark, it was the pivot point to eClub and the digital memberships. He didn't fight the tide, he surfed it. So the question is, Mark Leveridge Magic is still going strong in 2025. He's still sending out newsletters every single week. He's still releasing magic, and he's still appearing at magic conventions and still being the same old Mark Leveridge. So the question is, what can creators, dealers, and performers learn from Mark's long game? Well, the first thing I'd say is build the room and then publish the room. The Close-Up Symposium wasn't just events. There were environments that elevated close-up magic. He published the content so it lived forever. Don't be afraid to do something. Don't be afraid to take risks. Do you think setting up a magic convention when you're a one-man band magic dealer was a risk? Absolutely, it was a risk. Did it pay off? Yes, those symposiums shot his reputation and his brand to the next level. They became synonymous with him. Would it have been easier for him not to do that? Yes. Did he probably take a financial risk on that? Yes. But here's the thing, we should do the same. You know, I've taken risks in my career. Have all of those risks paid off? Absolutely not. However, have some of them paid off? Yes. And here's the thing, if I'd never taken a risk ever in my entire career, if I'd have played it safe the entire time, I would still be working for N-Power, knocking doors and selling gas and electric right now. I definitely wouldn't be a professional magician. I definitely wouldn't be creating magic. I definitely wouldn't be sitting here right now talking to you on YouTube. You've got to take risks. Look at a risk every time an opportunity. Don't look at it as a risk. Look at it as an opportunity. Every time an opportunity falls into your lap, ask yourself a question. What's the best possible scenario? What's the worst possible scenario? And if you can live with the worst case scenario, then go for it, because that's what Mark's done over and over again. He's took risks. I bet you those risks haven't all paid off, but he wouldn't be where he is right now with the career he's had if he didn't have taken those risks in the first place. Number 2, teach what you actually do. Hopping tables, master routines, kids' party videos. It's all built on material he performed for paying audiences. That's why it's timeless. He didn't create something off a whim that he's never performed in the real world and threw it out there because he thought, you know what, fuck it. I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine. Could he have done that? Yes. Would his reputation and his name allow him to do that? Absolutely. 100%. And would people have probably liked it? Yeah, because it's Mark Leveridge. It's got his name on it, you know, he's got a huge fan base. But he didn't do that. He only released material that he knew that he performed in the real world, that he'd walked in. And you know what? I can only imagine there were probably 1,000 master routines at one point, but a lot of them fell away because he was creating something that didn't work. And so we never saw it. If you're a creator of magic and you want to become a professional, successful creator in this industry, then teach what you actually do and stop trying to put together brain farts to sell for a quick buck. Number 3, program the relationship. A monthly newsletter, a monthly podcast, a membership archive, regular emails to a massive database. It's a rhythm and it builds trust. Content marketing is so important. Pushing content out there now more than ever with the rise of social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Reels, short form content, long form content. All of this is so important. You want to get yourself out there. Ask yourself a question. If you're a professional magician and somebody's inquiring for you and they're inquiring for another 3 people and your social media game is dead and it looks like you never post on social media and then the other people they look at are posting all the time, who do you think that person is going to go for? Because I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be you. Learn about content marketing. Number 4, curate a ladder. Free entry point, deeper membership, curated singles. That's smart marketing without feeling manipulative. More magicians should be doing this. More content creators should be doing this. More creators should be doing this. You should be looking at modern digital marketing techniques. Look for ways to get people into your email list or your WhatsApp list or your social media list. Look for ways to get people to subscribe to your channel or follow you on Instagram or follow you on Facebook. Get those people in and then build trust through the content that you put out. Get them to become a customer and then market to them even more. Number 5, know when to hand off. This is the biggest one. Stepping away from Magic Scene in 2022 wasn't failure. It was a smart succession. Protect the brand, protect the backlist, and let new people carry it on. And you've seen it over and over again. He got rid of Magic Scene just at the right point. He got rid of physical products just at the right point. He got rid of the symposium just at the right point. I talked to you about those lecture days. They were successful. I'm sure they were, but at some point they went away. He wasn't afraid to try something new. He wasn't afraid to try something and take a risk, but he also was very, very aware of whether something was working or not. And if it wasn't, he had no problem pulling it. Look, ultimately, here's the legacy in one line. Mark Leveridge makes magicians better at gigs. He didn't chase TV fame. He didn't market pipe dreams. He documented real work. He built platforms that kept teaching, and he stayed consistent across every format for 40 plus years. If you have a routine in your set that just works because of the timing, the reset, and the handling all dialed in, you're probably benefiting from the same philosophy that Mark Leveridge has been teaching since 1981. That's why I release the magic that I do, and that's why my tutorials are as in-depth as possible. I learned from people like Mark Leveridge. I learned that resets are important. I learned that giving people all the details are important. I learned from Mark Leveridge how important it is to make something commercial that works in the real world. That's important. So ultimately, that's it. The rise, the reinvention, and the long game of Mark Leveridge. Now, if you've used one of his routines, or if his newsletter or podcast ever dropped an idea that made your show better or you better, let me know in the comments. And if you're a creator or a dealer, here's the challenge. What's your monthly promise to your audience? Because that, more than everything, is the leverage lesson. And if Mark is listening to this, and I don't know if he ever will, on behalf of the magic community, Mr. Leveridge, thank you so much for everything that you have done for the last 40 years. And you've done it in the same way that you've presented everything that you have ever done as a gentleman. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to be back again tomorrow with another video. Don't forget, you want to see more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and you can go ahead and join my monthly streaming membership, which is The Netrix, by going to www.thenetrix.com. You can get access immediately and see what all the fuss is about. But other than that, I will see you again soon. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Craig, and this is Magic TV.